They teased her about playing the violin, but when she actually did, the whole room went silent. They didn't even try to hide it. It was the fifth period, last row by the window. That's where Nia Forrester always sat. Same spot, same quiet. Her worn-out violin case rested between her knees like it was fragile, like it could break at any moment. She rarely looked up, and when she did, it was only when her name was called. Even then, her voice was barely more than a whisper, just another quiet kid trying to stay unnoticed. But that day, everything changed, and not in the way anyone thought. Mr. Buckley, the PE teacher, who somehow was in charge of the school's upcoming talent show, made an announcement. He called out, "All right, folks, we've got spots open. Singers, dancers, magicians, whatever you've got, bring it on." His voice was casual, like he wasn't even sure why he was making the announcement. Then, Miss Dorsey, the math teacher who always wore the same beige sweater and acted like she was in charge, nudged Mr. Buckley and nodded toward Naya's seat. "What about our little violinist over there?" she said, loud enough for half the class to hear. Mr. Buckley chuckled and said, "Yeah, come on, Forrester. Show us what that thing can really do. You've been carrying it around all year. Might as well make it worth the wait." The class burst into laughter. It wasn't the kind of laughter that stings immediately. It crept up slowly, like harmless teasing. But Nia knew what it really was. A dare, not encouragement. Not respect, just a joke. They assumed she wouldn't understand it, or worse, wouldn't care. Her fingers gripped the neck of her violin case tighter. She didn't look up, not yet. Ahead of her, a boy whispered something about cat screeches. Someone else mimicked a screeching violin sound. It spread like spilled paint, messy, fast, and impossible to clean up. Miss Dorsey smiled like she had done something sweet. "Just teasing, sweetheart," she added, brushing it off like it didn't matter. That was when Nia finally looked up. Not at the teachers, not at the kids, just past them. "I'll do it," she said, calm as if she were ordering food at a drive-thru. The room went dead silent. Even Mr. Buckley blinked in surprise. "You serious?" he asked. Nia didn't say anything else. She didn't need to. She just placed the violin case on her desk and started filling out the sign-up sheet that was being passed around. No drama, no eye contact. Just her name, Nia Forrester, on the line. Miss Dorsey laughed again, but this time it was softer. "Well, that's the spirit, I guess." But behind her smile, there was something else. Doubt, maybe discomfort. She hadn't expected Nia to say yes. She expected her to shrink. The rest of the day moved on like usual. Bell rings, lockers slam, sneakers squeak across the halls. But something had shifted quietly beneath the surface. Because here's the thing, they didn't know who Nia really was. Not really. They saw a quiet black girl who barely spoke, carrying around a violin like she was trying too hard to be different. They didn't know about the third-floor apartment she shared with her mom and little brother, or how she practiced with a towel stuffed under the door so the neighbors wouldn't bang on the wall. They didn't know that the violin wasn't just a hobby. It was the one thing she had that truly felt like hers. And now they were all about to see it. But just because she had said yes didn't mean she wasn't scared. Her name wasn't the kind people remembered right away. Nia Forrester didn't stand out in the hallways of Toledo Central Middle School. She wasn't loud. She didn't hang out by the vending machines. She didn't snap back when kids made rude comments. She just kept walking, her violin case always in hand, her shoulders a little tight, like she had learned to take up less space than she deserved. But if you followed her home, if you walked the 4 blocks from school, crossed under the faded mural near Collingwood Boulevard, and climbed the crooked stairs to apartment 3C, you'd see the real Nia. Not the girl who barely spoke in class, but the girl who lived inside a storm of sound. The violin case clicked open as soon as the front door shut behind her. No snack, no TV, just her music, and the peeling walls in her shared bedroom. Her mom's voice echoed faintly from the kitchen. You eat anything yet? Not hungry. You should eat. Don't make me come in there. Nia smiled just a little. Her mom always said that, but she never came in, not when Nia was practicing. Her mom, Monica Forrester, worked nights cleaning offices downtown. She left around 6:30 every evening, right after dinner, and didn't get home until just before dawn. Nia knew her mom was tired, but she also knew that her mom listened from the other side of the wall every night. That was the rule. No speakers, no headphones, just raw sound. If Nia was off pitch, if her rhythm broke, her mom would tap gently on the wall 3 times. That meant start over. No anger, no shame, just a quiet reminder to do it again. Most nights Nia practiced until her fingertips went numb. Her violin wasn't fancy. It had scratches from old hands, a loose peg that needed tightening every few minutes, and a bow that frayed at the edges like an old shoelace. But when she played it, it sang. It cried. It screamed. It whispered. It was the only way Naya knew how to speak out loud. She had started learning at age 7. Her grandfather, who passed away when she was 9, had played the blues on a beat-up fiddle. She remembered his laugh, the way his fingers moved like they were dancing, and how he always said, "Let the instrument tell your truth when you can't." So she did. At school, kids rolled their eyes when she pulled out her violin during lunch period. Teachers smiled politely but never asked about it. Not until the joke. Not until Mr. Buckley and Miss Dorsey turned her whole year into a punchline. But Nia had already been working on something, a piece she had written herself. Half classical, half blues, all pain. It had no name. She didn't think it needed one. What it had was feeling, grit, soul, and a secret that only she and her violin understood. Because behind that quiet, behind the tired hoodie and worn sneakers, Nia Forrester was a storm. And for the first time, she wasn't going to hold it in. But wanting to prove something was one thing. Actually standing in front of the whole school and doing it, that was another. The next morning, the sign-up sheet was posted by the front office window, right next to the old vending machine that never worked. Kids huddled around it, dragging their fingers down the list, hoping to find something worth talking about. Nia's name sat quietly at number 16. Some kids squinted like they thought it was a mistake. "Who's Nia Forrester?" someone asked, chewing the end of a pencil. "She's that girl with the violin," another kid said. "Never talks. Probably going to play Mary Had a Little Lamb and cry." Laughter again. Always laughter after. But Nia didn't flinch. She walked past them like she didn't hear it. The truth was, she heard every word, memorized it, folded it up and put it in her chest like fuel. At lunch, Mr. Buckley stood by the basketball courts, pretending to care about who had signed up. "Talent shows on Friday," he called out. "No turning back now." He spotted Nia at the edge of the yard, tuning her violin in her lap. "You ready, Forrester?" he called, but she just gave him a look, blank, like he wasn't worth the energy it would take to answer. He raised his eyebrows and turned away. Inside the teacher's lounge, Miss Dorsey sipped her coffee, flipping through a list of performances. "Seriously, who let her sign up?" she asked, motioning to Nia's name. "She signed up herself," said Mrs. Tran, the art teacher. "She's got the same right as anyone else." Miss Dorsey shook her head. "It's not about rights. It's about awareness. She's setting herself up." Mrs. Tran didn't reply, but something in her jaw said she wasn't ready to admit she might be wrong. That afternoon, Nia sat on the edge of her bed with her violin and a blank notebook. Her mom leaned against the doorframe, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "You sure you want to do this?" she asked. Nia nodded without looking up. "I already said yes." Her mom walked in and sat beside her, picking up the frayed bow. "You don't have to prove anything to people who don't even see you. You know that, right?" "I'm not doing it for them," Nia replied. her eyes drifting to the water stain on the ceiling. Her mom smiled and pulled her close. Then do it for yourself. At school, whispers grew louder as the week went on. Kids started making bets. Some said she'd chicken out. Others said she'd freeze. A few even said maybe she could actually play, but still laughed when they said it. Only one person really talked to her. They had told Nia to play the violin, laughing as if it was a joke. But when she began, the whole room fell silent. No one even tried to hide their surprise. It was fifth period in the back row by the window, where Nia Forrester always sat. Same spot, same quiet, same worn-out violin case resting carefully between her knees as though it might break. She rarely looked up, only spoke when she had to. Just another quiet kid trying to stay invisible. But on that day, she became the center of attention. Not because anyone expected it, but because she had the courage to do something they never thought she would. Mr. Buckley, the PE teacher who somehow ended up in charge of the school's talent showcase, made an announcement. All right, folks, we've got spots open. Singers, dancers, magicians, whatever you've got, bring it. His voice was half joking, as if he didn't even care why he was saying it. Then Miss Dorsey, the math teacher who always wore the same beige sweater and acted like she ran the school, nudged him and nodded toward Nia's seat. What about our little violinist? She asked, her voice loud enough for half the class to hear. Buckley chuckled without thinking. Yeah, come on, Forrester. Show us what that thing can really do. You've been carrying it around all year, might as well make it worth the wait. The room burst into laughter. It wasn't immediate. It crept in slowly, disguised as harmless teasing. But Nia felt the sting. It wasn't encouragement. It was a dare, a joke. They thought she wouldn't care, that she wouldn't understand. Her fingers tightened around the neck of her violin case, and for a moment she didn't look up. She didn't need to. Someone in the row ahead whispered something about cat screeches, and someone else mimicked a screechy sound. It spread like wildfire. Miss Dorsey smiled, brushing it off. Just teasing, sweetheart. But Nia didn't flinch. She didn't shrink. She looked up, not at the teachers or the kids, but straight ahead, her voice as calm as if she were ordering food at a drive-thru. I'll do it, she said. The room fell dead quiet. Buckley blinked. You serious? She didn't repeat herself. She didn't need to. She just slid her violin case off her lap, placed it on the desk, and filled out the sign-up sheet. No drama, no eye contact, just her name, Nia Forrester. Miss Dorsey chuckled again, but it was softer now. Well, that's the spirit, I guess. But even she was uneasy. She hadn't expected Nia to say yes. She hadn't expected her to stand up for herself. The rest of the day carried on like any other. Bells ringing, lockers slamming, sneakers squeaking across the hallways. But something had shifted, quietly beneath the surface. They didn't really know who Nia was. They saw her as the quiet girl, the one who brought a violin to school as if trying too hard to be different. They didn't know about her apartment on the third floor, the one she shared with her mom and little brother. They didn't know how she practiced with a towel stuffed under her door to avoid bothering the neighbors. They didn't know that her violin wasn't just a hobby. It was the one thing she had that felt like it truly belonged to her. And now they were going to see it. But saying yes didn't mean she wasn't scared. She wasn't the kind of person people remembered right away. Nia Forrester didn't stand out. She didn't hang around the vending machines. She didn't snap back when people made slick comments under their breath. She just kept walking, violin case always in hand, shoulders a little tense, as if she'd gotten used to taking up less space than she deserved. If you followed her home, if you walked the 4 blocks from school, crossed the faded mural near Collingwood Boulevard, and climbed the crooked stairs to apartment 3C, you'd see the real Nia. Not the girl who barely whispered in class, but the girl who lived inside a storm of sound. The moment the door clicked shut behind her, her violin case would be open. The music would begin. No snack, no scrolling through her phone, just the violin. Her mom's voice would echo faintly from the kitchen, asking if she'd eaten yet. Not hungry, Nia would say. Her mom, Monica, worked nights cleaning offices downtown. She'd leave around 6:30 right after dinner and wouldn't be back until just before dawn. Nia knew her mom was tired, but she also knew that every night her mom listened from the other side of the wall. When Nia practiced, she kept the sound raw, no speakers, no headphones, just the pure sound of her violin. And when Nia made a mistake, her mom would tap gently on the wall 3 times, signaling that it was time to start over. No anger, no shame, just start again, baby. Some nights Nia practiced until her fingertips went numb. Her violin wasn't fancy. It had scratches, a loose peg that had to be tightened every few minutes, and a bow that frayed like an old shoelace. But it sang. It cried. It whispered. It was the only way Nia knew how to speak out loud. At school, the other kids rolled their eyes when she took out her violin at lunch. Teachers smiled politely, but no one really asked about it until that joke. Until Buckley and Dorsey turned her whole year into a punchline. But Nia had been working on something, a piece she'd written herself. Half classical, half blues, all pain. It didn't have a name. It didn't need one. It had feeling, grit, soul, and a secret that only she and her violin understood. Behind her quiet demeanor, behind the hoodie and sneakers, Nia was a storm, and for the first time, she wasn't going to keep it inside. Wanting to prove something was one thing. Actually standing in front of the whole school and doing it, that was another. When the talent show came, Nia's name was on the list, quietly sitting at number 16. Kids gathered around the sign-up sheet, looking for names they recognized, hoping for drama, hoping someone would embarrass themselves. When they saw Nia's name, they snickered. "She's that girl with the violin," someone said. "Probably going to play Mary Had a Little Lamb." The laughter came again, soft at first, but Nia didn't flinch. She walked past them like she didn't hear. In truth, she heard every word, and she stored it away, fuel for what was to come. Friday arrived quickly. The gym was set up, fold-out chairs, scuffed floors, a squeaky mic. The parents would come later, but for now it was just the students and teachers. One by one, kids performed. Singers, dancers, a kid telling knock-knock jokes. The crowd clapped politely, some of it real, some of it fake. Everyone was waiting for someone to mess up. Backstage, Nia sat with her violin on her lap, fingers tapping on the wood, counting down the seconds. When her name was called, the room wasn't expecting what came next. She had practiced so many hours at home, after school, after dinner. The hallway outside apartment 3C always smelled like old carpet and reheated noodles. Nia would come home, drop her backpack, and go straight to her violin. The piece she'd written didn't have a name. It started soft, like something slipping out from behind a locked door. And then it shifted. That was the hardest part, making the audience feel like they had been dragged through something real. Then she'd give them peace at the end. The night before the show, her little brother Miles had asked, "Are you going to win?" Nia had shrugged, not looking up. "Why don't you play Happy Song?" he asked. She paused. "I do," she said, "but happy and sad sound the same." He didn't get it, but he nodded anyway. Her mom had come home late, tired from her long shift. "Still at it?" she asked. Nia, stretched out on the floor, didn't answer. "I'm almost done," she whispered, her bow dancing across the strings. Her mom sat beside her, worried that Nia was pushing herself too hard. "If you push too hard, your hands will give out," she warned. "They already feel numb," Nia replied softly. The morning of the show, Nia barely ate. Her hands were stiff, but she stretched them out over and over. When she arrived at school, the gym smelled like floor polish and too many bodies packed into folding chairs. Backstage, people whispered her name. She's number 16. There was no fear, just heat. Her fingers trembled, her face flushed. When it was her turn, she stepped onto the stage. The crowd murmured. Some had their phones out, waiting for her to mess up. She didn't speak. She didn't sit. She just lifted her violin to her shoulder. And then, nothing. The first note was thin, trembling, but she held it, let it bloom. By the time she reached the fifth note, the gym was completely still. No more whispers, no more giggling. The piece wasn't like anything they'd heard before. It wasn't a TikTok song or a movie score. It was raw. It was real. Her bow danced across the strings, speaking with her whole body. The sound twisted, surged, like something fighting to break free. Her eyes were closed, not out of fear, but because she didn't need them open. Everything she wanted to say was in the music. The highest note she hit hung in the air, so long that the room forgot to breathe. When the piece slowed, she dragged the final note out, letting it linger in the air. And then, silence. For a long moment, no one moved. No one breathed. Then a single clap. Then another. Then the whole room was clapping. Slowly they stood, one by one. Malik, sitting near the middle, was the first. The others followed, and soon even the kids who thought she would fail were standing too. Backstage, Buckley nodded at her, trying to act like he always believed in her. But he didn't say a word. Miss Dorsey didn't speak either, her silence louder than anything. Later, Mrs. T.R. met Nia by the water fountain and handed her a folded piece of paper. "You made them feel it," she said softly. The note inside read, "When they don't expect you to shine, shine anyway." That night, her mom didn't ask how it went. She just looked at Nia's face and nodded. "You did it." "Yeah," Nia said. "Did they listen?" her mom asked. "Yeah," Nia answered. Monica wrapped her arms around Nia, whispering in her hair. "I hope they never forget." But applause fades. The real change comes after the clapping stops. Monday came with overcast skies and the smell of wet pavement. People moved slower, quieter. But Nia, when she stepped through the school doors, could feel the difference. People looked at her, not with smirks or whispers, but with respect, curiosity. Some nodded, others moved out of her way. One girl even whispered, "That's her." But it wasn't fame they saw. It was recognition. She walked past Buckley, who tried to smile awkwardly, but she just nodded and kept walking. Miss Dorsey, standing at her door, looked at Nia for a long moment. Finally, she spoke. "I owe you an apology," Miss Dorsey said quietly. "What I said last week wasn't right." Nia just looked at her, then replied, "You should have seen me before Friday." Miss Dorsey blinked. That hit harder than any comeback ever could. Nia turned and walked away, not angry, not bitter, just done. In the cafeteria, Malik slid her a carton of chocolate milk, grinning. "Next time we play a duet," he said. Nia smirked. "You're not ready." Her laugh rang out, even if just a little, and some people turned to look. It was the first time they'd ever heard it. That night, she didn't pick up her violin. She sat on the couch next to her little brother, watching cartoons in silence. Her mom peeked out from the kitchen. "You not practicing?" she asked. Nia just smiled. "Not tonight." Her mom nodded. "You good?" "Yeah," Nia said. "I'm good." And she was. The next day, as Nia sat down in class, something was different. It wasn't just the way the other students looked at her, though that was part of it. It wasn't just the fact that they had seen her step onto that stage, take a risk, and change the atmosphere in that gym with nothing but a violin. It was something more. It was the feeling that she had finally stepped into her own power, not because anyone else had told her to, but because she had decided to do it for herself. It was clear now. She wasn't invisible. She wasn't the quiet girl with the violin. She was Nia Forrester, The girl who made a room full of people stop, listen, and remember her name. Later that afternoon, Buckley called her aside after PE. "I've got to hand it to you," he said, his usual bravado toned down. "I thought you were just going to get up there and, you know, mess around. But that was something else. You've got real talent. You should think about joining the school orchestra or maybe even trying for the state competition." Nia nodded, a slight smile on her lips, but she didn't say anything in response. She didn't need to. The applause she had received the night before had already answered every question she'd ever asked herself. That night, Nia picked up her violin again. The sound that filled the room was different, clearer, as if it had been waiting all this time for the right moment. Her mom was at work, and Miles was already asleep. But Nia wasn't lonely. For the first time, the music didn't feel like a way to escape. It felt like a way to move forward. She played longer than she ever had before, letting the bow glide over the strings, the notes swelling in a crescendo that echoed through the empty apartment. As she played, Nia couldn't help but think of all the things she had held back for so long. The anger, the fear, the doubt. They had all been there, buried deep inside her, just waiting for a way to break free. The music had given it to her. It had given her the voice she never thought she could have. When her mom came home late that night, she smiled when she heard the music. She knew her daughter was no longer just practicing. She was telling a story, one note at a time. The next morning, Nia woke up early. She had a feeling she would need to be prepared for something new, something bigger than she had ever imagined. As she made her way to school, she could feel the eyes of the other students following her. But now it didn't bother her. She was no longer trying to hide. She was walking in her truth. When she got to class, Miss Dorsey called her to the front of the room, a soft smile on her face. "Nia," she began, her voice gentle, "I wanted to say something. What you did on Friday, it was incredible. And I don't want you to think that's all you are. You have a gift. Don't let anyone make you think otherwise." Nia stood tall, surprised by the sincerity in Miss Dorsey's voice. She gave her a small nod. "Thanks," she said softly, and then she walked back to her seat. The rest of the day felt different, lighter somehow. People spoke to her differently now. The whispers weren't mocking anymore. They were full of curiosity, respect, maybe even a little awe. It was strange, but Nia liked it. She had nothing to prove anymore. By the time she got home, her mom was already there. She was sitting at the kitchen table, looking at a piece of paper. When she looked up and saw Nia, her eyes lit up. "You got a letter?" she said, handing it over. Nia tore it open, not sure what to expect. As she read the letter, her heart skipped a beat. It was from the local orchestra. They had seen her performance at the talent show, and they wanted her to audition for a spot. Nia stared at the letter for a long moment, a smile slowly spreading across her face. It was the opportunity she hadn't dared to dream of, an invitation to step into something bigger than herself. "Mom," she whispered, "they want me to audition." Her mom's face softened, and she reached out, pulling Nia into a hug. "I knew it," she said. "I knew you were destined for something amazing." Nia pulled back slightly, looking her mom in the eyes. "I'm not going to let anyone stop me this time. Not ever again." Her mom smiled proudly. "I don't think anyone can stop you now, baby." That night after dinner, Nia sat on the couch with her violin in hand. She didn't need to practice for an audition, not really. She had been practicing her whole life, whether she realized it or not. But she did play. She played with all her heart, with all the passion she had locked away for so long. She played because it felt good, because it made her feel alive, because it was finally hers. The music was her, and she was ready to show the world who she truly was. As she played, the door to her apartment creaked open, and Miles stood there wide-eyed. "Are you going to play that at the audition?" he asked, his voice full of wonder. Nia smiled, a secret gleam in her eyes. I am, she said, and I'm going to make them listen. And she knew, with a certainty she had never felt before, that this was only the beginning.